Hey guys, how's it going? Kaeyoh from Tempo Storm here, and today I wanted to make a video talking about playing the early game on Zagara. Zagara is one of my favorite characters right now, especially with the new patch. I think that she's a really good character you should have in your arsenal if you're playing a damage role, and I think she's a character that's really worth learning and mastering because right now the damage has been normalized quite a bit, I would say. You still have your Jaina and your Zeratul on the super strong end of the spectrum, but characters like Vala and Tychus and Falstad all kind of Zagara really, in my opinion, does very well in that pool. So yeah, what I want to talk about now is just kind of how to get the game started, because I feel like one of the biggest things that I see when I watch other Zagara players, or if I'm playing Zagara myself, is just noticing how impactful people are in the early game and how you use her kit, because she has one of the strongest early game kits in the game, and having a really strong early game on Zagara and transitioning that into the mid game, it puts you in a really good position. You can really give your team a nice solid advantage just through map control and all that good stuff. So yeah, anyways, here we go. We're in a replay right now. I'm just going to be going over a couple of the things that are going through my head, decisions that I try to make in game. First of all, you want to know what you're up against. So whenever you get into a game like this, make sure you take a look at the enemy team and see what kind of roaming and ganking threats you're going to be dealing with. So in this case, they have a Jaina, they have a Butcher, and a Nova. So that's a lot of threat. Potentially a team like this. Now, of course, like their comp, sure, it's not like that good of a comp. They don't have a tank and stuff like that. But let's pretend that they do, okay? And if you're looking at their team, you really want to know kind of what could be a problem for you. Because Zagara doesn't have any mobility, it can be really a tough situation, because a lot of times when you're in lane as Zagara, it's really easy to push the lane out very far, because you can get away with it with your Hydralisks. You can put a lot of pressure on your lane. You can usually keep your opponent pushed, but sometimes it's not the best option, especially when you don't know where their roaming squad's going to be. So once you've identified what kind of roaming threats you're going to be up against, the next step is to know where they are. You need the information. Figuring out where on the map the enemy gank threat that's gonna give you your windows of opportunity. Okay, so constantly what I'm gonna be doing, I already know what I'm up against. I don't know who I'm gonna be laning against, as you know, I'm just getting this game started, but I know that I'm gonna keep an eye on the lanes and immediately be looking for the Nova, the Butcher, and the Jaina. And as soon as I find those people, as soon as I see that they're doing any kind of laning setup, I'm immediately going to be putting a lot of pressure on my lane. If I don't see them show up in lane, that means I'm going to be playing much safer, trying to, it's going to be a slower early game because I'm going to be using my creep to give me zones of, safety where I can actually push knowing I have vision. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Okay, so first things first, when you're getting into the game, you immediately have your 3 creep tumor charges, right? And using those 3 creep tumor charges, you want to get those out right away. Usually the best thing you can do is, obviously, you want to put those in the ganking routes, kind of like where you could be in trouble from. So in this particular situation, really where I'm going to be looking is probably this shrub right here. Now, one thing you don't want to do, another mistake, is if you just try to charge in and put a super aggressive creep tumor early on. If your team's with you, that can be okay, but if your team is not with you, really, you're risking way too much just to get a little bit of vision if they are just sitting there in the bush. So first things first, just going to be putting a couple creep tumors right away. And then the other really important creep tumor you're going to want is one safety creep tumor. And that is going to be one that you put kind of, maybe right in the corner here, just somewhere near your gate, somewhere near your base, somewhere it's not going to be destroyed for free. And that creep tumor is going to give you a little bit of a regen zone that you're going to have. Because of course with this build, and if you want to see the build, by the way, I just did a guide on the website for Zagara, and there'll be a link to that in the video description. So definitely check that out as well, and you can see all the build choices and why I take what I take. But what we're getting here is the regen on Creep Tumor, increased health restoration 200%. So that's going to be a great tool for you early on trading. But what you want to make sure is you just have one Creep Tumor that isn't going to be in the range of harass, and it's not going to get taken out while you're trading with somebody and trying to clear the wave. So immediately I'm going to be coming down here looking to get my first couple Creep Tumors out. And another thing you can do, by the way, if you need to be checking bushes, don't be afraid to use roaches. Just you can check that way. It's not the safest thing, but at least gives you some heads up. So really looking at their team is what makes me play so carefully here. See, just like I was saying, I do put the Creep Tumor down here. This is a move that a thing that I do quite a bit. I'll put one down there in just a very safe position that I know I can constantly just use for that little bit of sustain. And I get one here. I should be getting one probably a little more deep, like using like a roach right now or something, just to make sure I'm okay. All right, so I just go for it there. So immediately, like, this is, especially when you're gonna, well, you don't know if you're gonna have to play a defensive early game right away, but when you see these kind of aggressive characters, these aggressive compositions, scary laning, you want to place your Creep Tumors more in a defensive position where you'll know when they're rotating, so you have a little bit of time. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be looking to push the wave now that I've seen where pretty much everyone is. I haven't seen Jaina yet, but at the same time, I've already seen enough, and I have these Creep Tumors placed in a good position to where I'm okay to start really putting a lot of pressure on this wave. So immediately using the Hydras there to push. Now, of course, with the Hydras as well, you can use them on the creep wave, and you can push that way. But I still prefer to just drop the... usually I stick to about one Roach and one Hydra per wave. And what that does is, if at any point your lane opponent is trying to trade with you, that's when you use your Hydralisk. And so that's going to punish him almost all the time. Even 2 shots from the Hydra is enough damage to really punish him for trying to trade with a Zagara. So here's one really important part to what I'm doing here. You don't want to just start spamming your creep all over the lane. Really, it's not very efficient use of creep. Sure, you're gonna have a lot of control over your lane, but it's very, very easy for them to clear because they don't have to go anywhere to do it. And also that creep, if you just spam it out in lane, it doesn't really help you nearly as much either. Sure, the regen is nice sometimes, and I'll definitely put a couple Creep Tumors in the lane, but I see a lot of Zagaras just go crazy and just non-stop, just spam here, spam here, spam here, anywhere in the lane that they want. They're just throwing them everywhere. And what ends up happening is, sure, there's creep all over their lane, but then the objective spawns, and that creep doesn't help them at all anymore. So what I do is I hold on to my Creep Tumor charges. So I have 1 now, and I'm going to wait for that to get to 3. And at 3, I'm going to be pushing the lane as hard as I can, and then I'm going to roam out, and I'm going to put my Creep Tumors as aggressively as I can. So that's more of the advantage that you can get by playing a little bit smarter. Okay, so this is pretty much a standard lane stuff right here. He's coming down here for the globe. That's all good. Constantly looking at the map. I keep seeing Jaina. I keep seeing Nova. I know where the threats are on the map. So I'm in a position where I'm all out pushing. I know where people are. I know I can push. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So I've got 3 Creep Tumors now. So what I'm going to be trying to do right now is finish pushing this lane as hard as I can. And then I'm going to immediately rotate out to start placing these 3 charges. So now I'm going to use these charges. And you can see the positioning much more aggressive on these Creep Tumors. And this is where you really start helping your team. So now, instead of having placed these 3 tumors just all over willy-nilly in the lane, I actually have them in really important rotation positions. This is going to be good scouting for if they try to make a move for giants. This is, if I can get one here, that'll be really good. In general, just getting them out here and, more aggressively is what you want to look for. The other really cool side of this, and this is definitely something that people underestimate, is that right now for Hammer, when I return to lane and I'm fighting Hammer in lane, for Hammer to deal with my creep, sure, he probably knows that there's creep tumors I'm putting down over here, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to lane, and now I can shove this lane out, and now he has to make a decision where he has to rotate away from the lane and away from the experience in order to clear this out. So it's not as much as an easy clear as it is like if I have creep tumors just in these bushes here, because he can just roll up and clear those anyways. He doesn't have to make any kind of rotation. So that's just another thing that I use to my advantage. And you might be thinking, like, just because this is like quick match that I'm getting away with the style, but it actually works across the board. Zagara pushes very hard, and people, pretty much any character in the game can't really stand toe-to-toe with Zagara and trade with her. So almost always people are on the back foot. So that's what I'm talking about, where, like, sure, I'll place like one creep tumor, and that was also a perfect example of him just immediately clearing that out with very little. I mean, he had to do very little to eliminate what I just did. But here again, I'm building my creep tumors up, and immediately I'm gonna go back into and mind you, I see where people are. If I had no vision of people, you have to keep that in mind too. But now I'm starting to open up my window, so I can actually rotate in here more safely each time I do this, because I'm being, I'm constantly just increasing my map vision. So here I go, I'm going to place a couple more creep tumors. Now we'll know for sure if they're doing their giants. And what's cool about placing tumors in positions like this is to clear it, they have to aggro the giants, which is good. Because it means I'll probably get dismounted, probably just take a little bit extra poke. Okay, so here's a good example of, okay, so the wave's coming now, and he rotates up here to clear one creep tumor. And that's, so he makes this rotation while there's no experience. So he's not missing experience, he's being smart, but he can't just stay here and keep clearing these. He has to get back here to the wave. And you can see how this starts to get out of control, and you start taking over your enemy jungle. So I'm going to be coming straight back to lane. He takes a lot of poke there just by being out in the open anyways. Immediately I'm going to be pushing this out, and now it's very difficult for him to clear that out without having to make a tough decision, because he has to either stay here, his towers are going to be drained soon, and if he goes up here and tries to clear out creep instead of dealing with a wave, he's going to be way behind. And meanwhile, I'm just building up more charges, getting ready to spread more creep into the jungle. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do right here. Yeah. Okay. And this right here, guys, is basically where I'm going to end it. And with this, I just want to show you as kind of a snapshot. This is the kind of thing you want to go for. And I'm one of the, I would say, dominant Zagara players right now in the competitive scene. And this is something that definitely works. And consistently, I get a lot of games where, yeah, I'm giving my team a huge advantage going into the mid game because I'm really proactive and smart about where I'm placing my creep and how I'm using the charges. I've got this guy's lane pushed to where his towers are drained now. On the next tempo rotation bottom, we're going to have a nice solid advantage because they're going to have nowhere to run to. We could even snipe this wall really quick. Any kind of rotations that they're doing through here, we're going to see now. They can't take their giants safely, and overall, you can just see kind of how much of an advantage you can from making such a small play as being smart with your creep tumor management. Anyways, guys, definitely check out the guide if you want to see more information about this. I just wanted to talk more about the early game specifically because I feel like the early game on Zagara is one of the most underestimated things, and one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't give their team the advantage they could. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.